written by basically a raccoon. I won the lottery by being born. To be a white male American, to be a reasonably intelligent, reasonably attractive, and the only child in a stable family that could afford to pay my way into a useless master's degree. To reach adulthood without ever needing a credit card or having a car payment. Without ever knowing any real adversity or discomfort. I was born at the apex of societal privilege, and I've known it my whole life. To be someone like me and end up homeless, you have to fuck up really, really badly. To be someone like me and end up living on the streets of a city with one of the highest violent crime rates in the country. To have nowhere to go, to have no one who would answer your calls even if you wanted to call them. I didn't. Well, you basically have to fuck up that badly on purpose. And that's exactly what I did. It took 2 full years of systematically alienating friends, ghosting family, and sabotaging my own relationship to the point that I was unemployed and unhireable anywhere in the city. It was another 5 or 6 months before my car finally broke down, and that gave me plenty of time to rack up almost a dozen speeding tickets on an impromptu and ultimately boring road trip across the country and back. 2 months after losing my car, I ran out of things to sell to pay the rent. Electronics were the first to go, followed by tools and furniture. I even sold my bed. It took another 2 months to get an eviction notice. Speeding tickets turned into failure to appear charges. My driver's license expired on my birthday, and renewing it at that point would have involved paying thousands of dollars and making court appearances in multiple counties or parishes in Louisiana, Colorado, Montana, Ohio, certainly nowhere within walking distance. I could partially explain my mindset at the time, why I was so bent on self-destruction, but I won't attempt to do that here. That's not what this story is about. Suffice it to say that I was going through a phase in which I needed other people to hate me as much as I hated myself. I needed to hit bottom, and I couldn't get there if anyone alive still cared about me. It didn't really feel like hitting bottom, though. Not at all. On the last day of having a roof over my head, I sat on the front steps of my apartment with my mind reeling, not from despair, but from exhilaration. I had finally done it. I had killed every connection to my past and eliminated every avenue leading back to it, and it felt amazing. I felt brand new. The landlord had left a note saying he would call the police if I wasn't gone by the time the cleaners arrived at 4 p.m. But I didn't even need that long. I packed a backpack with the things that I naively thought would be essential to my survival, tossed my identification into the trash, and jauntily set out into the city by mid-morning, heading nowhere in particular. I won't romanticize homelessness, nor will I embellish on its hardships. When food and shelter become things that must be sought anew each day, and oftentimes done without, life is very different. You might think that the transition would be rocky or even traumatic, but you'd be wrong. It's shockingly easy to adapt when you truly have no other option. I ate from dumpsters, I stole, I begged. I learned to do things that I never would have imagined my pride would allow. I learned something about pride too, that it's utterly useless where survival is concerned. But you'll learn that for yourself soon enough. There's something else I wanted to talk to you about. Different people call it different things. The haunting, the crossroads. Some of the old-timers call it the gloaming, or Smoke City, but everyone who spends enough time walking the streets alone at night knows what it is. It's easy to think you've mentally cracked the first time you cross over. With the busy avenues suddenly empty, the lights from street lamps and windows suddenly diffused as if through a fog, you might start to wonder if malnutrition and sleep deprivation haven't finally caught up to you as the sounds of people and traffic fade to nothing, replaced by the too loud humming of power lines and the whistling of wind reverberating strangely as if the whole empty city were inside an echo chamber. The mind seeks to rationalize such things, even if the only rational explanation is insanity. Sooner or later, though, it comes up in hushed conversations with other transients. You hear the same stories from the train riders, the long-timers, the seasonal workers, and everyone else, and you're left with the unavoidable realization that the haunting, or whatever you choose to call it, and the things that you can encounter while you're there are experiences both universal and inexorable to those of us who exist outside the safety of houses. You're left with the cold and certain knowledge that the world you see is simply smaller than the world that is. You can find the haunting in any city, or so I've heard. I say find, but there really is no way to seek it out or anticipate the crossover. It just happens. Maybe once a week, maybe once a month. It's hard to say how long it lasts, as it impairs your sense of time passing. You're just suddenly in it, and you're not sure how long you've been there, but the feeling is unmistakable. Dread. Giddy and elemental. No matter how many times you've crossed over, the dread cannot be suppressed. It doesn't come on like normal feelings. It's as if there's a malignance inherent in the universe itself that has heretofore been hidden to you, suddenly and inescapably apparent. As I've said, you can find the haunting in any city, but the demons, as far as I know, are local. Yes, if I haven't mentioned it yet, there are demons. Or at least there are entities unguessable and malevolent for whom I have no better name. Some demons seem to appear only in specific places. It is unknown to me, however, if they are tethered by choice, by nature, or by some rule beyond kin. Others seem able to roam whole parts of the city. You won't encounter them every time you cross over into the haunting, but crossing over seems to be a prerequisite for most of them to be seen. Some will follow you. Some will bait you into following them. Some will seem totally oblivious to your presence altogether, while others will have clearly been waiting for you. Some have only been seen by a handful of people, and some have been seen by nearly everyone on the street since before I was born. There is one that I know for a fact walks in the full light of day, wearing the guise of a human being and seemingly unconstrained by whatever binds the others to time and place. None of them can be encountered without consequence. They transfigure you, your mind. They rarely speak in any intelligible way or at all, but they can manipulate your thoughts and feelings as easily and as intentionally as tuning a radio. Some of them show you things that were never meant to be included within the set of human experience. They often teach in absolutes, things that cannot be experienced by imagining but only by experiencing. What does anxiety in its purest form feel like? They will show you. Desperation, fear, melancholy. absolute and unmitigated feelings with no conscious mind to dilute or interpret them, far beyond any intensity you thought possible. They will show you. There are other emotions too, nameless and beyond description, emotions that you've never experienced before, that you shouldn't be capable of experiencing. They will show you. They show you and they change you terribly, and by degrees the world you see will become larger. Over time, much will be revealed to you about the quality of things, a truer lens of perspective on life, if you will. I wish I could tell you there was satisfaction in such enlightenment. I really do. Realistically, though, you'll most likely turn to anything that offers a temporary and merciful ignorance. Addiction, madness, maybe even suicide. The sad truth of the matter, though, and you'll already know this when the time comes, is that there isn't a way back. Maybe there was once, a long time ago, before you walked away from it all, but not now. Different people call them by different names, but it doesn't matter. Any homeless person you meet in this city will know exactly what you mean when you mention the muddy woman, or the dog-faced puppet, or the bow-legged thing on Hawthorne Street that likes to hide under the parked cars in people's driveways. We've all seen the green-eyed procession of deformities, and the fake store with the fake people in it. We've all woken up a time or two to find ourselves being watched by the snake-jawed hag, unable to look away from the paralyzing horror of that distended and angular grin. These sick, soft godlings are all around us, magnificent in their monstrosity. You'll learn firsthand soon enough, and I'll be here if you need someone to talk to about it. Thank you for listening. You can probably handle another horror story, right?